Anybody that says that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies don't have value, anybody that says that doesn't fundamentally understand the double spend problem, right? The idea that you can have digital assets, ones and zeros, that you can provably spend only once. That's the revolution. That's why blockchain is here to stay, why cryptocurrencies are here to stay.
It's fun. It's wild. It's Dad's Gone Crypto.
Hey guys, welcome to Dad's Gone Crypto, and it's another great episode. We've got Mr. Anderson, Tom Anderson, on from Devvio and LitPets, and he shares some wisdom as a dad, crypto dad, and taking traditional business acumen and skill sets and bringing it into the crypto space and creating an ecosystem where he is incredibly passionate, incredibly proud of. And we're going to have him on shortly. But before we get there, Ryan, you went on a bit of a bender, I think, a few weeks ago. Tell us about it.
Actually, yeah. So we had the Beatles Fest here, which is in a local town here. And basically, there's maybe 35 Beatles cover bands that play at all the bars in town, and it's a college town, so it's hilarious because it's all only for the Beatles Fest. It's all old guys like me and watching all these Beatles cover bands, and there's no college kids in sight. But as soon as the bands are over at like midnight or so, it just swarms with college kids again coming into the bars, and all of us old guys get the heck out of there. But
so you were pub crawling, basically.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, we basically went on a massive pub crawl between about probably 14 bars, watching so many bands.
And did any bouncers ask you for your
5
ID?
in the afternoon till midnight? What's that?
Did they ask you for your ID?
Unfortunately, no. I don't get ID'd very often unless they're looking for like the ask if I want the senior discount, and that's always a big kick in the nuts anymore.
Discount. Well, you're approaching that, aren't you? Listen, if you ever come visit that site, I'm taking you to Walmart on Wednesdays. And Mark, you're on holiday. What's happening over there? Are you chilling? Are you relaxing? Are you stressed? What's happening?
Well, I would hope I was chilling and relaxing. The weather's great, but as you guys know, I got 4 kids with me, and to be honest, I kind of miss the daycare days right now. So it's quite stressful, and yeah, they need my undivided attention, of course. But I'm having a blast. I went diving for the first time yesterday, so that was pretty cool. And I buddied up with my wife and the instructor. And the funny thing is that my wife was a more experienced diver. She has done it a couple of times. And we were supposed to keep with the instructor. And she was just looking around, and I was focused on, okay, we need to keep up with this motherfucker, and so we don't get lost, etc. And I got winded halfway, and then I looked over, and she wasn't paddling or using her flippers at all. She was just floating around, and I was dragging her through the ocean to keep up with the instructor. So it was. I told her, don't ever fucking do that again. So I was out of air halfway or something. But I had a blast, seen an octopus, and it was great.
You were just dragging her in case there was a shark behind you, Mark. You're like, there you go.
Yeah. I'm so protective.
Oh, brilliant. My side,
what have you been up to, Sean?
What has been happening my side? Just a couple of weeks of hell. A lot of activations happening. A lot of things just all at once, and exciting things, fun things. But yeah, it just requires a shitload of time and energy and mindset. And I've got the snotty little nose. Excuse my evening voice call. But yeah, just pushing hard, and I feel like I need a vacation. Mark, I'm coming to visit.
You're welcome. You just need to watch the kids for a couple of days.
No problem. I'll bring the duct tape. All right, guys, from the Beatles to Daddy Daycare to Snotty Flu Nose, we are now tuning over to Tom Anderson. Welcome, Tom Anderson, to Dad's Gone Crypto. It's finally, it's awesome to have you on our show, and we're excited to pick your brain about a lot of things. To kick things off, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your journey, and are you a crypto dad?
Yeah, I'm a crypto dad, so I love the concept of the show. Excited to be here. So thanks for having me on.
Awesome.
Yeah,
tell me a little about your journey.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background on myself. So I am a dad, so good fit for the show. I love dad jokes. I have plenty of them and get lots of groans. So all that's a good fit, being here. On the crypto side of things, just starting kind of a little bit back, I'm an experienced entrepreneur. So my first business was actually a robotics business. And in that business, I raised about $34 million. I took the company public. We created the world's first consumer 3D touch device. So it was a robot that added a very realistic sense of touch into computing, and took robots that cost tens of thousands of dollars, got them down to a consumer price point, and with that got into the video game industry. So a lot of my career was actually in the video game space. And in the video game space, licensed on the order of about $100 million of video game development, got national distribution on our products, and then to make a long story short, sold our IP to Facebook. So that was my first business, just as a bit of background. My second big business is Devvio, which is a blockchain company, and saw enormous opportunity in the blockchain space. So starting about 7 years ago. And to me, blockchain is one of the few technologies we'll see in our lifetime that really fundamentally changes computing, on par with the internet. Where the internet was a disruptive platform that lets people transfer data, blockchain is a disruptive platform that lets people transfer value. And if you look at it at that most basic level, that's where we saw world-changing implications. And so, really wanted to build a business in the space, but there was no technology that really solved all the problems you have to solve to build a real business. Big challenges in scalability, privacy, fraud, theft, and loss, stability. One of the biggest ones is cost. And so, given that there was no solution to those things, we designed our own layer one protocol from scratch, came up with our own consensus mechanism. With that, we solved the sharding problem, which is a big area of research in blockchain. And our sharding solution, or parallelizing the blockchain, is really different from anything else out there. And we benchmarked a system with our initial sharding at 8 million transactions per second. Our costs are on the order of 1/10 millionth the cost of Ethereum. Our energy usage is 1/3 billionth the energy usage of Bitcoin. So it's a really efficient, really pretty powerful technology. Probably most importantly, though, is the architectural flexibility. We can create any number of shards or independent blockchains that can be customized to any given application, and we have a RESTful API where any web developer in the world can instantly integrate with it. So the technology itself, is pretty neat. And then we've expanded into kind of two main areas, finishing out the background. One is ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And that's a big area that I think blockchain is going to play a dominant role in. And then we also have the other part of our business is our metaverse and digital financial ecosystem business. So those are the two things Devvio is focused on.
Okay. So what do you find most enjoyable and interesting about the crypto sphere?
So the crypto space is a crazy space, I have to say. Again, I'm a traditional businessman. I often think when I'm like, spending hours on Telegram and people are like, wow, right now I want to, it kind of feels like you've jumped into Alice's rabbit hole and you're sitting at the Mad Hatter's tea party, So the crypto space is kind of a crazy space, but it's also fun. It's really a compelling. I would say I'm a cypherpunk at heart, right? I love the concept of people controlling their own value. I love a lot of the main philosophies of what blockchain can be. I mean, the original kind of concepts that we started around and really our long-term vision. I think we have, in contrast to a lot of blockchain projects, kind of practical, business-oriented, milestones to get there. But the long-term goal matches with the overall crypto philosophy. I see a vision where, in the future, blockchain is going to fundamentally change humanity. And again, it's a technology that lets people fundamentally transfer value. So I love the concepts of, people being able to control their own value, removing middlemen where you don't need them. Middlemen are the entities in the world world that suck up most of the value and really kind of push a lot of people down. I love the idea of people being able to have the resource to fulfill their potential, and blockchain, I think, is going to, give those types of things. So it's a really great space and a really exciting area to be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Giving back to the people.
I'm sure, like all of us, that you've experienced some major highs and lows in the crypto space. Can you
totally.
maybe share some of those with our audience?
Yeah. I'm trying to think like what there's lots of, again, kind of cycles in the crypto space. So kind of fundamentally, like if you're in the crypto space, a lot of what happens, is kind of riding the waves of the bull and bear markets, right? So the crypto space is cyclical, so you reach these points where it's like, oh, we're going to be able to, raise a bunch of money or bring in a lot of token sales or things like that. And then the markets crash. And then, so we went through kind of the token, the big bear market in 2018. Like we were really positioned well, felt like we were about to explode, and then the markets crashed. And there was a little bit of denial for a good 4 or 5 months where the ETH value kept going down, 1,400, 1,000, 700, 300, and everyone's like, no, it's going to come back, but then it didn't. So it kind of survived through the bear years for a few years. And I'm proud of what we were able to do. We survived through those. Survive is the right word, right? And it's not too different from any, again, I'm an experienced entrepreneur. It's not too different from entrepreneurship in general. There's always highs and lows. It's often that you are worried about making payroll next month, that kind of thing. And entrepreneurship in general seems like it's kind of feast or famine. But then, on the high side, we kind of time things well when the markets were peaking, in 2021. And really we're announcing our gaming project, LitCraft, and that came out at the right time, and we were able to sell NFTs and tokens into that, and now we're building some really exciting things based on funds we brought in there. So yeah, definitely have ridden the cycles and waves in the crypto space.
Yeah, I think the cyclicality in the crypto space is what everybody is dealing with, especially projects when they have their treasury in crypto. That's has been quite a challenge, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
You just mentioned the LitCraft as well. Could you share a short or elevator pitch or pitches on Devvio, DevX, and Niceperience?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm the CEO of Devvio, and then I'm also the founder and creator of LitCraft. So both are kind of LitCraft more a passion project, Devvio more kind of a traditional business. And LitCraft actually started before Devvio existed. So Devvio again is the company that's created the DevX blockchain. It's very high speed, high throughput, cost effective. I think the place where we stand out, where we're different from everything else in the crypto space, is our sharding implementation. So the ability we could create literally thousands of independent blockchains or shards. So each of our shards really is an independent blockchain. So we could create literally thousands of independent blockchains or shards that are customized to any given application. And other blockchains just don't work that way. Other blockchains are really kind of this monolithic mainnet, structure. So if we work with one customer that has particular governance needs, we can spin up a shard for them. If there's another customer like a game company that has really throughput needs or cost needs, we can spin up a shard and optimized for them. And so this ability to create shards that are customized, particularly with legal requirements. So again, we're looking at the ESG space. It's a very complicated legal jurisdiction oriented space. And so we could have 1,000 different shards in 1,000 different legal jurisdictions where each shard is customized for the legal requirements, to run and operate. And other blockchains just can't do that. And then the second thing is we have a RESTful API. So there's 200,000 Solidity developers. Well, there's 25 million web developers, right? Solidity is the programming language for Ethereum, right? So we have orders of magnitude more people that can integrate with our blockchain than Ethereum. And so that's a powerful concept. Like we built it from the beginning to kind of bridge Web 2 and Web 3. And actually we proved it out. Over the last year, we hired a traditional Web 2 team. We actually hired the former head of the Amazon Kindle project at Amazon, who built the Kindle marketplace. So a traditional Web 2 developer didn't know anything about blockchain. And he came in and built our wallet app, like a Web 3 wallet app, just with a traditional Web 2 team, our Glassblock marketplace, so glassblock.io. And it looks like a regular Shopify website. Like I show non-crypto people and they're like, yeah, great. Looks like a nice website. It's like, you don't understand. Like, this is a Web 3 website, this is a big deal, right? No, you have to tell them it's a big deal. But you just check out with a credit card, have a wallet, a shopping cart. When you check out, you instantly get items in your wallet in less than a second. It's like a Shopify kind of experience, but it's a Web 3 fundamental application. So this former head of the Kindle project and his Web 2 team built all of these Web 3 applications with no Web 3 experience. They didn't know anything about blockchain. So soon as now we open up and you have our sharding solution available where anybody can start their own blockchain, literally, and then they can have an easy to integrate interface into it. I think that's going to be game changing. So I feel like we're gonna, we're still small and relatively unknown, but I feel like we're going to be a big player in the overall blockchain space. So that's the Devvio side of it. Then the LitCraft side of it is really, I think, I would say our beachhead application. It's the first big application that we're building on the DevX blockchain. And so we have the LitCraft sci-fi fantasy universe, which is a very deep and rich sci-fi fantasy universe. The hope is that it could become one of the big IPs in the world, like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or Star Wars or Marvel. So that's the hope. But it's also got books. We're actually creating a TV show. Hopefully we'll have movies, in the future, things like that. But we've also got a big game, aspect to the LitCraft universe. So the game that and this is the main thing that we're really doing as a company right now, is this overall digital financial ecosystem that we're creating that the game is kind of the foundation for. So I would argue the big winners in the entire metaverse space are going to be the companies that focus on financial ecosystems, not just there's going to be some winners that create a great game and have success with it, but the big winners, the Meta, Facebook level winners to me are going to be the ones that really create financial ecosystems that are very broad, with many different projects and games and applications all plugging into it. So that's what we're doing. So we have the LitCraft experience game where you can go in and you can dig things out like Minecraft. You can craft all of your items into more and more complex things. We've got dozens of games already that plug into it, and then you can actually build virtual businesses in the LitCraft experience game as well. So it's a really compelling, fun experience, but has fiat off ramps, lots of different ways to earn. It's just a great application to show off the power of the DevX blockchain.
That's awesome. I think I remember Sean mentioning that he was quite attached to the LitCraft game when it just released. Wasn't it? Was it you, Sean?
It was me. I spent many hours, click, cramp, slide. I'm like, when you start getting cramps in your finger, you're playing something too much.
Totally.
Gotta make money.
A lot. Every time you click, it's like a little penny tingling. It's like.
Yeah.
I used to be on a Sunday morning just watching TV on the laptop on the side. I'm like, okay, what do I do next? Just go there, just click.
Right.
Maximize my potential.
We were wondering where you went, Sean, but now I know.
Right.
Opening up
Sean
a virtual business
for a few months there.
One of our users bought a mouse that the mouse tracks and gives like awards within their ecosystem, just the mouse. And he said he rose to the top of all of the badges that the mouse company was giving. Like he was doing more clicks than anybody else using that company's mice.
Wow. So would you say LitCraft would serve as somewhat of a proof of concept of the sharding and how you designed your blockchain with the high throughput of All right.
So originally we designed the LitCraft Experience game just as a test bed for the blockchain. You know, you have this really super high speed blockchain, and it can handle lots of different types of recipes where you combine assets into multiple other types of assets and lots of base assets. So it was a great test bed, and so it's actually probably the longest running blockchain game. Given that it was a test bed, we created it 4 years ago. So about 4 years ago had the kind of Minecraft and crafting type of interaction. About 3 years ago we added the pet battling type of thing. Years before Axie Infinity, right? And then about 2 years ago we had the beginnings of the business development, and it was a fun game. We had, even before we really got it to play to earn and play to own, we had people that played 500 hours just playing the game just because it's fun. That's one of the big things missing in the missing in the blockchain space, is the fun side of it. But then Axie Infinity exploded, and the crypto gaming space got really hot, and we had a ready to go game. And arguably I would say we have the best technology for gaming, right? When you start really getting into gaming, you need high speed, high throughput, cost effectiveness, ease of integration, right? And those are hard things to do on a blockchain, and we had all of that ready to go as well. So LitCraft Experience is, I think, not only an example project for the blockchain, but it's also an example project for how our technology can be used in gaming. All of that said, the blockchain or the experience and the overall LitCraft effort is a really big vision on its own. Again, I think the big winners are going to be entities that create these digital financial ecosystems. And so LitCraft Experience and LitCraft, the whole financial ecosystem itself, that's really the heart of the project, is the financial ecosystem. It's not as much the specific games, because we've created a lot of fun games, but over time there's going to be many more third-party games that will plug into it. The thing that really is exciting about it, to me, is this ability to have all of the interrelated financial ecosystem that's tied into blockchain. So for example, like if you go into an experience, you can we have a big launch coming out on April 22nd where we're doing our V4. So the V4 is going to have a dozen new games, things like that. So one of the new games is Solitaire, tried and true, proven game. Lots of people across the world love it, right? And so if you love Solitaire, and a lot of people do, right? A lot of people just sit there and play it over and over. You can play Solitaire and earn tokens that have value in the ecosystem, and you don't have to do anything else. But then somebody else, they can create a virtual business. So when you play Solitaire, you actually earn what are called legicent, which are legal points. And so it's kind of an analogy, right? And as you build a business, your business levels up, and as it levels up, just like a real world business, you have more requirements. You start to have legal needs, accounting needs, marketing needs, things like that. And so the accounting points, those come from playing Sudoku, right? And if you ever played Sudoku, you have to line up all the lines both directions, and the mentality of it is very much like accounting, right? And so you get accounting points playing Sudoku, and then you get marketing points by doing real world marketing. So you go into what's called our Lit Legion app, which is you might think of it as kind of a real world MMO, where you do real world tasks and then you get points that fit into this financial ecosystem. So for example, you can retweet tweets, or you can help another user out, or you can write a guide, or you could even create artwork or things like that, right? So you do real world tasks in Lit Legion, and then those also create points, and then so real world marketing in Lit Legion creates marketing points, which are called Opsonaut, and then somebody who's creating a business needs Opsonaut, and it's just like real life. Like if you're a baker in real life and you want to start a bakery, you don't plant a field and grow your own wheat. You just buy bags of flour, right? You don't get a legal degree and pass the bar. You hire a lawyer. You don't get an accounting degree. You hire an accountant, right? And so just like in real life, you specialize. You do what you do, and then you get other people to do what they like, and it all comes together in kind of a complex ecosystem. And most blockchain games are kind of balancing issuances versus sinks, like just a real simple type of concept, and that's not a good way to grow something that's going to last over time. That only works during kind of a growth phase. But the real world economies, which we're mimicking, work kind of through cycles. And if you want to build something that's going to be around in 10 years and is going to really grow to kind of a massive scale, you need all of that interplay between all of the different ecosystem items. So that's really what we're building, and that's the big vision. I want to be the financial hub for the metaverse in the future.
So there's a lot of intertwined games that speak to different people. Therefore, the adoption should be greater. When do you think that your game will have an Axie effect? So Axie, I think, went out of control because there was immediate reward once you started to play the game, and they got these almost like pools and people to just thousands of people to play, but it almost felt like farming for points and that. When do you feel that your game might get that Axie effect?
So I think one of the things that Axie did well is they built, during the bear markets, and then when the bull market hit, they were well positioned. So I think in this next cycle that we're in right now, I think we're in a similar position, and especially with the level of complexity of the ecosystem that already has, the level we're going to increase that, on our April 22nd version 4 launch. And then you take that and you add in our ability to have shards and easy to integrate through our RESTful API. Other people can start, tying into it. I feel like we're well positioned to just explode, right? And then we've also got, all the tools for it as well. So we've got the Glassblock Marketplace, which just works like a regular, Shopify site or Amazon or whatever, just a traditional experience. So you can start bringing in non-crypto people who have never heard the word MetaMask, right? The just regular people. We're going to launch on iOS, so you can start iOS and Android, so mobile, and so you can have just kind of regular users come in. Our games are perfect for mobile as well, and then you start getting this snowball effect too, because just like any kind of ecosystem where this person's building this business, I need more legal points or marketing points. People don't have it. People see a need. They start gaining in, and so the ecosystem, I think, also can drive things. And then one of the big things that we're really pushing too is, again, Lit Legion, where people can do real world tasks and earn. So I kind of think of it as the world's first real world MMO. And it's like an MMO, like you have a contact, they give you a task, you go do it, you come back, they give you another task. So it's just kind of like World of Warcraft, but for real world things. But a big part of what Lit Legion is a way to organize everybody so that we can get that kind of geometric growth. For every person that comes into Lit Legion, we want to get 2 more. And we give the tools where people that come into Lit Legion, we organize everybody, where we start spreading the word, you bring more people in, you get rewards for bringing more people in, and those are the kinds of things I think you need to have to get that geometric growth, and that's where you get that kind of big, or Axie Infinity, or even like the all of the world's big companies have had that at some point. So we're creating technology to help implement it. So
okay. So DevX is the blockchain behind all of this, right?
Right.
So I've seen DevX described as a permissioned public chain. Can you explain the difference between a permission chain and a permissionless chain for us, for our audience?
Sure. So in the spectrum of kind of blockchain approaches, there's, the far end that's Bitcoin, completely permissionless. Anybody can help join and run it. So it's got decentralized governance. One thing I think people in the crypto space don't always distinguish is there's a big difference between decentralized operations, which gives you Byzantine fault, tolerant security, and decentralized governance, which means anybody can come in and run it. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have, like IBM's approach, where it's a permission chain and it's a private chain. So we're kind of in the middle, and I think we found the sweet spot. So we have, like, when I first started developing Devvio, I read the Bitcoin white paper in 2016, and I was blown away. Like I had followed Bitcoin kind of intellectually since 2011. I actually created a digital currency before there were cryptocurrencies. I created a digital currency in mid 2000s, with a website that I had done. So I've always been interested in the space, but I hadn't really looked at the algorithms behind Bitcoin until about 2016. And I spent a couple weeks, really got my arms around it. And it's like, wow, this is brilliant. Like the idea that you can have a system that's run, that anybody can come in and join, and even people who come in and join and want to cheat the system still can't, I mean, that's a brilliant algorithm. I would never try to even design something like that, but Satoshi did an amazing job designing the proof of work algorithm. But the big challenge, though, is if you have decentralized governance where anybody can come in and run the system, and then you try to get to efficiency and speed, that's almost impossible. So we took the other approach. We said, let's have a permissioned system where we control who the validators are. So we control who actually runs the system. But then that way you can design a system where you can have efficiency and speed. Again, millions of transactions per second, 3 billion the energy usage of Bitcoin, right? You can design a system like that. But I would argue you don't lose the main things that Bitcoin needs. Like the main premise of Bitcoin, and again, anybody that says that Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies don't have value doesn't fundamentally understand the double spend problem, right? The idea that you can have digital assets, ones and zeros, that you can provably spend only once. That's the revolution. That's why blockchain is here to stay. Why cryptocurrencies are here to stay. Folks that don't believe that, again, don't understand that. And so in order to have that, the original Bitcoin white paper said, I want to create a system where any two parties can transact without working through a central authority. I want to have anybody be able to audit the transaction or audit the entire chain. Our system does that. The real kind of underlying principles that Bitcoin was founded based on, those were my principles as well. So a public chain to me is what's important. Anybody can audit the chain. Anybody can see all the transactions. Anybody can verify that things exist, that accounts and value exist. But the idea that anybody can run the chain, I didn't think that was critical. So that was the one change that we made different from everybody else. And then I'll also add, I would argue long term, we're going to get to the same point. Like long term, again, we can change the governance per shard. So especially like in the ESG space, I'd like to have our shards in the ESG space run by the global 2000, the world's 2,000 biggest companies or governments or universities. And that's the ultimate vision of Bitcoin. So I would argue getting efficiency and working towards decentralized governance is the better approach than starting with decentralized governance and trying to get to efficiency, even if you're working towards the same end goal. So that's kind of my philosophy on the overall blockchain space.
Oh, makes sense.
That's very interesting. Do you get comments on people mentioning that it's like not decentralized or
Yes, again, there's a big difference between decentralized governance and decentralized operations. So people that say that aren't usually sophisticated, that they kind of really understand the nuances there. And then sometimes, people say that just because it's the thing to say. Like the crypto space, as anti-establishment as it is also ironically one of the most kind of follower types of mentalities that I've ever experienced in business. Like, oh, well, this is the way things are in crypto. And it boggles my mind because it's like the whole space is this anti-establishment, down with government, do things different type of space. But then everybody, it's almost like goths, right? They dress and they want to look different, but they all do it exactly the same way, right? So it's just kind of human nature. Like so the crypto space is kind of like that. They all kind of follow, like, this is the way things are done in the crypto space. And it's kind of like, no, like, think about it. Like, what is it you really need? You need a public chain that gives you trust and transparency. That's what you really need. Who cares how the blocks are actually made, right? So I definitely got that significantly kind of 2017, 2018. Now, less so, because like even Axie Infinity, like the Ronin chain was a permissioned chain, right? So there's as the space matures and it becomes, has needs for more kind of practicality, there becomes at the end of the day, I think people don't care as long as it works, right? And does what they want. I'll also step on my soapbox for one moment and say proof of stake to me is one of the worst human inventions ever. I hate proof of stake. Like, it's a horrible concept, and it's going to cause a lot of pain and misery in the world. And you can see how it evolved and how it started. You have proof of work, like Ethereum started with proof of work, and then you start to reach these efficiency and scalability issues that, proof of work lets you have decentralized governance, but it doesn't let you have, the efficiency that you need. And so, what's a natural way? We want everybody to be able to run the system, but we need some other way to prove that you have the right to make blocks. Well, let's make it where you have to own, some of the cryptocurrency in the system, and then that's what gives you the right to add the blocks. And so you can kind of see how it evolves. But if you think about it, proof of stake fundamentally is the rich get richer. It's the concept of in the entirety of why the whole blockchain space, why Bitcoin was originally invented. And so if you shift to this idea that anybody can run the system, but then you shift to where only the people who have wealth can run the system, like, it seems obvious to me. I don't know why more people don't really kind of have problems with this, that it's going to become, something that the wealthy manipulate. And it goes against the original premise that blockchain should be owned by the people, right? And so proof of stake to me is one of the most horrible inventions in human history. And I hope that projects like ours get to a point where we've, shown and proven things out, and then you get to governance that's operating in a decentralized governance that's operating in a different way, but still has those kind of fundamental aspects that don't have it where the rich get richer, where the blockchain really is designed where people own the value they create. So I'll step off my soapbox now, but that's it's interesting. You guys are asking questions I don't usually talk about, so this is I love this show and I love you guys. You guys are great. This is fun. So.
Thanks.
Oh, you're muted, Sean.
Oh, Sean, you're muted.
Sorry, man. I'm talking to myself again. I said, well, welcome to our barbecue.
Yeah, so congratulations on pulling me on to a soapbox. I don't usually.
No.
We're glad to have you there. That's some great info, honestly.
Tom, you mentioned sharding quite a bit. And for the average viewer or the average dad that's gotten into crypto, the thing they do understand is how the blockchain works. And to achieve your high throughput, you mentioned you use sharding a lot. Could you explain, like I'm 5, what sharding actually is and how it works?
Sure.
In normal business terms.
So sharding. Yeah, it just kind of, the term really just kind of means parallelizing the processing on a blockchain. And so one thing I think people don't really realize when they hear the word sharding is that it means, beyond that very kind of broad high-level concept, it means something very different in lots of different blockchains, right? So again, you have the Ethereum network that has sharding as well, and they're pushing more and more sharding technologies and approaches. It's very different from our sharding approach. So in their case, you have a system where, again, it has decentralized governance, because a very small number of folks, very small number of entities control large portions of how it runs, and fundamentally the folks that are running Ethereum, which is kind of shown by the big, I forget the name, that they had that big fork when they had a problem. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but they had a big fork and it turned into a different Ethereum chain because of a disagreement in kind of the decentralized governance side of it. So anyways, they're
Ethereum
really
Classic?
Yeah, Ethereum Classic. That's what I was forgetting. Yeah. So you have things like that. Okay. So my point is that it's decentralized generally, and many people can come in and run it. If you buy Ethereum, now proof of stake, you can have the right to help add blocks and then gain ETH by adding blocks. So when you have a system like that is one big mainnet blockchain, and then you want to have parallelized processing of how the blockchain is added, that's a pretty tough problem, and hats off to what they've been doing solving it. Whereas in our case, we took a different approach. We said, so that's one type of sharding, lots of different people, and you have to figure out how to parallelize the processing across all the people who are running one main blockchain. In our case, what we're doing with sharding is we said, let's have a blockchain with validators, right? So the computers that add blocks to the blockchain. So you have one blockchain, and then if you and let's say that blockchain can handle 1,000 transactions per second, right? And you need 2,000 transactions per second. Well, why don't you make another blockchain, and then that one runs 1,000 and this one runs 1,000? And let's say you need 100,000 transactions per second. Well, why don't you make 100 blockchains that do it. And then you kind of reach that throughput with one caveat. What happens if a transaction needs to go from one of those blockchains to another blockchain? And so what we did then is we came up with a clever way to have cross-shard or cross-blockchain transactions. So each of those blockchains we call a T2 network, and then there's a single T1 network that handles cross-shard transactions. So when I say sharding in our case, I'm talking about having parallel blockchains that then have a really efficient, clever way to have transactions go between them. And originally we did it to make it work with scale, right? So that concept, if you need more and more transactions, just add more and more blockchains and then create a way that they can talk to each other, right? So it's a good way to scale. But the thing that resulted from that, and we didn't realize this right at first, is the real power of that is when you're adding more and more blockchains, the idea that you can customize each of those blockchains to a particular application is like wow, that's the big deal. That's the thing we do that other blockchains don't. So instead of having this one monolithic blockchain that really makes it hard to develop. Like the difficulty in sharding Ethereum versus the difficulty in sharding in our case is a good example of it. This ability to customize blockchains really is a powerful concept. So sharding for us just means adding more blockchains and then having a clever cross-shard mechanism.
Just on a security question, so if you're taking the blockchain and you're securing that, through your algorithm, and now you're taking fragments off it, does it not add vulnerability perhaps to the system, or does it add increased security?
Well, that's the thing you have to, if you take an approach like ours, that's what you have to solve. That's the root of the problem. So that's a great question. Like if you're kind of following it, it's like that's the obvious thing that then you got to make sure that works. So the way we handled that is the T1 network that handles the cross-shard transactions. And the blockchains aren't side chains, right? So if you have kind of one blockchain that's coordinating between them, a lot of times, there's been other architectures similar to that, but it really is pretty different, right? So there's side chains called in the crypto space where you have a main blockchain and it's running, and then you have other chains that tie into it. And those are side chains, but there's a master copy is kind of the main blockchain, right? That's not what we're doing. So what we're doing, the T1 network that handles the cross-shard transactions, it is simply a cross-shard mechanism. And the clever part of our design was that we figured out a secure way to do it, right? So what happens is you have transactions like, Alice sends Bob some cryptocurrency, right? That's a transaction that goes into one of the T1 networks, one of the shards. Then let's say Alice sends Bob a cryptocurrency and Bob's on a different shard. Well, what happens is entire blocks from that T2 network, they're the inputs into the T1 network. So the entire block comes down, and the block is signed just like Alice and Bob's original transaction. The collection of all the Alices and Bobs that are sending transactions to each other, the collection makes a block. That entire block is signed, and the entire block then is sent as a transaction into the T1 network. Yeah. The T1 network organizes it, kind of restructures it, goes through decentralized operational, just adding blocks to the blockchain, through the regular consensus mechanisms. It's called proof of validation in our case, and it adds blocks, and then those blocks are organized in a way where the other T2 networks, Bob's separate shard, can read those blocks, and then so it's block on a blockchain that's proven secure, but it reads that block for the settlement side of the transaction. So Alice's blockchain handles the sending side of the transaction, gets processed through the T1 network through proof of validation, comes out the other side into blocks for the T1 network, and then the settlement side, Bob's Bob's shard then reads those blocks and then he gets credited with what was sent. So it gets transferred through proof of validation through a consensus mechanism that's secure. So again, I'm talking about things I don't normally talk about.
Well, that's the idea, right? Just gathered around the barbecue pit and just.
Can you imagine though, like really sitting at a barbecue? So tell me about the consensus mechanism.
No, we do it. Right? Yeah. We do it.
Well, we do it.
Right.
So we got the most popular people.
We bore a lot of people, but
actually, the four of us would probably do that. Like, we'd be sitting around and
Exactly.
just enjoy that conversation, right? So,
Definitely be a lot of beers.
yep, right.
So Tom, I like to ask this question. It's an important question. Mental health, right? So you are tossed between real world, when I say real world, the traditional business sense. Then you got the crazy crypto, which is just pure madness, especially in a bull market. And then you've got kids, and you've got a wife, and then family. I hope you've got a wife. You've got a wife, yeah.
Yep,
And it's all this pulling of you, right? How do you stay focused? I can see your passion. You're always on the chats. You're always giving advice. You're always giving the professional. Like, you've been pulled in so many places. How do you manage it all, and how do you keep sane?
Yeah, so that is really a skill set. So I think the crypto space has its own kind of levels of stresses. That I'm sure everybody who's watching has experienced. Right, we've all had the stresses that the bull and bear cycles create. In my case, though, it's more kind of traditional startup, early stage, company types of things. So I think a big part of it is just finding balance, right? Like one of the things I do is I'm a rock climber, and I go to the gym, rock climbing gym every day, right? So that's a big part of how I keep my sanity is making sure I'm exercising every day. That's important. I think it's a learned skill set as an entrepreneur to be able to take a step back at times, and you feel the weight of everything on you, especially when you get to those valleys where you're wondering about making payroll. I mean, that's the worst part of being a startup, is when you're worried about taking care of other people, right? Everything is on your shoulders to make payroll. And so, I think sometimes you have to be able to take a step back and say, like, this is a business. Families, healthy. Like put things in perspective, and that's sometimes easier said than done. But it's again a skill set that you develop, right? So having been through a bunch of cycles, a bunch of stressful times, there's a part of me where sometimes you're feeling like really like, oh my god, this is horrible. I don't want to go. Like I can't keep going. A lot of times, you having been through that a bunch of times, now I'm kind of able to say like, almost like my brain telling my emotional side of my brain, like, calm down, it's going to be all right, that kind of thing. And then there's also balance. Like, I work sometimes really long hours. It's not uncommon for me in crunch time to have 100+ hour weeks, right? And you can't do that for forever, but in crunch time sometimes you have that. But I also at the same time, while I've been busy, like have my kids curl up next to me, turn on Tom and Jerry in the background while I'm working, on the laptop. So being able to be around them while I'm working, is good. So I guess the overall answer is just finding the right balance, making sure you're exercising, making sure you're keeping things in perspective, making sure you're finding time where you need it. Sometimes family does come first over business. Sometimes business comes first over family. So just finding the right balance and everything is kind of the key to keeping yourself sane, I think. So.
I think Crypto Dad Mike has mastered the art of pulling back and enjoying life. He's on a vacation for a month.
Yeah, it looks nice there.
Definitely, yeah.
We aspire. But anyways. All right, changing gears. Let's go back to the lit pets and the egg. I would like a little bit of alpha. So I think, Ryan, you've got some lit pets, and I've got some lit pets. We've got some Genesis, and we've got some land. Woohoo! Tell us, is it a good idea to open it up or keep it for a very long time?
So who knows, right? That's the probably correct answer. So, I would think, just going with your instincts on things is always a good thing. I will say, like there's people who have collected toys and then they're still in the boxes, right? There's the whole Toy Story, movie concept of that. Jessie's locked in the box and she's gonna be sent off to a Japanese, businessman or whatever it was, that kind of thing. So, like there's a lot to be said for open your toys and have fun with them in the meantime. So open a chest and explore it. So actually, as I'm talking it through, I would say opening is probably best, right? Because there is there is something to be said about having an unopened chest that you don't know what's going to come out of it, and I think people will be excited about that. So there's there's some understanding where some people might not want to open them, but if you open it and then you get a lit pet and then you come and you start playing and battling with it, or you use it in a business, I think that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, I would say open it and jump in and start playing with it. So.
All right. We'll keep one closed and we'll play with the rest.
Yeah, right. That works.
So, Tom, could you please paint your vision for the future of crypto and how Devvio plays a role in that?
Sure. As I said kind of at the beginning, my visions of where crypto is going is a big vision. I see crypto again as being one of the few technologies that will really kind of fundamentally change computing on par with the internet. And so I'm an optimist, right? And I believe that blockchain has really the potential to fundamentally, at the end of the day, improve people's lives, and we want to be a big part of that. So, on the ESG side of things is a good example of what we're doing. We want to become the world's source of truth for ESG data and assets. And a lot of the challenges that humanity is facing, I would argue the biggest challenge in the entire ESG space, or the entire environmental space, is going to be trust and provenance of data. If we're going to solve the problems that we need to solve, you're ultimately going to have data that you really can trust, that's transparent and auditable. And so blockchain, I see having playing a big role in solving humanity's challenges, and that's one example. I also see blockchain as really having the ability to let people control their value, and that's a big deal. Like if you look at, we all experience this, but we just accept it. But like if you look at a box of cereal, sold in a supermarket, you buy it for $6 or whatever. It's only maybe 10 cents that ultimately makes its way down to the farmer that created the material that's most of the value, in the cereal. Like it's food, right? So that idea that there's all these middlemen all the way to that end point, and they get such a small percentage, it's a really pretty horrible concept when you think about it, right? And that's just one example. Like it permeates our society. Middlemen take larger cuts than they should. So the idea originally of the Bitcoin white paper was that any two parties can transact and without working through a central authority, or in other words, also without working through a middleman. So the idea that people can control the value that they create, sell it and direct it directly to other people, means that percentage that goes down to the people really creating the value is much bigger. And I think society as a whole is going to be so much better with that. There's a lot of evils that come with this discrepancy between people and big corporations. And I'm a capitalist. I fully believe in that concept, but a technology like blockchain can even the playing field and make it more equitable for everybody. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited the ramification of that means that people will have the resource they need to fulfill their potential. There's so many people in the world that could create so much value and good if they only had a chance, had an opportunity, if they had some resource. And a lot of times it's a minimal amount of resource to get that really large amount of gain. So the big vision of what I think blockchain can be is the big vision of what we want to help make happen and be a big part of.
So, Tom, can you give us any tips for all the dads out there that are looking to get into the space? How can they come in? How can they be successful, either as an investor or an entrepreneur in the space?
Yeah, I would say the main bit of advice I'd give there is really kind of go with your gut, go with your instincts. I think learning and becoming knowledgeable before you get into things always is a good thing. But at the end of the day, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. FTX is a good example where the things didn't seem too good to be true. They seemed reasonable, just putting money into an exchange and you can get burned, right? So I guess that's another thing, is be cautious. Like the blockchain and crypto space is a place where it is easy to get burned. You have to be very careful, and you can be very careful and still get burned. But beyond that, beyond the FTX types of situations, then you have things like Celsius, right? So things that seem too good to be true, or the Terra collapse. Like so more from a design perspective, like 5 or 6 years ago, I was trying to figure out how to create stability, right? Because we were solving privacy and fraud, theft, and loss, like in the original design of the blockchain. And I convinced myself, like, you can't have a stable currency based on mechanisms. Like I convinced myself that wouldn't work. And then sure enough, you have a few years later, people relying on that, and Terra collapses, right? And again, that to me kind of falls in the category of your gut, right? Like my gut was like, that's, like that. If there's nothing underlying it, how does it maintain its value? And it kind of doesn't ultimately make sense. So yeah, those are some of the types of things I think go into not getting burned as best you can in the crypto space.
Awesome. Great. So Tom, it's this time of the show that Dad's got jokes. How we're going to play it is, so Tom, you are going to start us off with your joke, and then we're going to go to Mike and then Ryan. And if you guys, so we're not allowed to smile or flinch or any facial expressions, otherwise you're out, and you've got to down a beer after the show. All right. So Tom, you're up.
That sounds like a good challenge.
Go for it.
So telling a dad joke. So my this probably isn't going to be too hard not to laugh at because it's more a description. But my current dad joke that I do with the kids is my daughter says, "Where's mom?" And I real solemnly, seriously put my hand on her shoulder and say, "She's left us, sweetheart. She found another life she wants to go live." And so the first couple times, a little bit of a joke, but now it's turned into funny just because it's a dad joke, right? Like it's expected. So that's my current dad joke. Not haha funny, but it's a inside joke that's fun. So.
No, we all play that game.
Yep.
Where's your daddy? Is he your daddy?
Yeah.
All right, Mike, you're up.
I can't hear you, Mike.
Mike, it's the,
You're muted,
it's the
Mike.
funniest joke
you
you've
missed
ever
it.
said.
You guys missed it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you got to start over.
That one was awesome. That's too bad we missed it. Yeah.
Winner.
Yeah.
Priceless.
So I got quite a sweet tooth, right? And my wife keeps asking me where I get all these candies from, but I'm not telling her. I need to keep a couple of twigs up my sleeve. No,
I like dad jokes too much. I'm gonna lose the straight face contest. I can't compete with you guys.
guys, you got zero emotions.
All right,
Ryan,
Sean?
you're up.
Oh, all right. So where do pirates get their hooks? The second-hand store, of course.
Oh, that's bad. No, Ryan, that's walking the plank after this. It's horrible.
All right, let's see what
I'm
you
going
got,
to put you in
Sean.
the sin bin. All right, okay. Ready. My turn. Why couldn't the astronaut land on the moon? Because it was full. I think it was funny.
Yeah, I at least cracked a smile there. So
Good
you
stuff.
got me that one.
I should have researched a couple more dad jokes.
All right, Tom, and tell us, what is the top one tip you can advise our audience not to get fucked in crypto?
Yeah, going with your gut. Yeah, and joining and riding along with Devvio. That's the other
Nice.
Excellent.
Tom, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, and it was lovely having you on the show. And hopefully in the future you can come back on and share some more
Yeah,
experiences.
this is great,
of your
guys. I love your show. Love what you're doing. Good stuff. So thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot,
Awesome.
Tom. This
Thank
has
you,
been
Tom.
great.
Take care. Ciao.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.